Now, how many people here understand cricket? How do you know cricket? Pardon? Australian, oh my goodness. And who else knows cricket? And can you follow it? Pardon? Okay, now the rest of us are totally confused. There's something strange about cricket. You can watch it forever and you'll never figure out what the hell is happening. You probably grew up playing it or whatever. It's a bit like Brussels. And I listen to radio debates sometimes about EU debates, and I say, it's like discussing cricket. They're talking about innings and outings and so on, and the rest of us don't understand it. So if I asked you to design a course on cricket, first thing I want to know is, one guy throws the ball, one guy tries to hit the ball, and this guy tries to catch the ball, and you guys get all excited, and we're wondering, what the hell happened? So if you want to understand a game like cricket or a game like European Union, you must understand who the players are. You must understand the relationship between the players, the rules of the game. There's English, there's cricket English, and there's Brussels English. So I have to teach you English today. So if you work on landscape, I was mentioning earlier, that's called spatial planning in Brussels. You talk about the environment, they call it circular economy. So even if when Sylvia was doing the searching, we had to find out, for example, voluntary organizations are called civil society organizations and NGOs. So on the website, Sylvia's put up the kind of Brussels terminology of what you do. So if you type in voluntary, you get different things. So I want to try and teach you the language. Now, at the top of the triangle, you have the politicians. Now, in Ireland, these are the Minister of Energy, Minister of Health, our government ministers, and our elected members of the European Parliament. So Ireland has 11 MEPs. Now, these are directly elected by us. So when you hear somebody saying, we've been governed by faceless bureaucrats, no, these people are directly elected. Now, where the media gets confused is with these people here, the European Commission. They're civil servants, the same as civil servants here in Dublin. But the problem is that the top layer are political appointees. That's why the media thinks they're a political organisation. No, with Phil Hogan is our commissioner. He's Commissioner for Agriculture. He's not the Irish commissioner, he's the Commissioner for Agriculture. And so, but below the commissioner, then you have people working here. Now, what Sylvia is doing in Brussels is dealing mainly with the Parliament and the Council. But the Commission then are responsible for administering the programs. Now down here, on this slide, I call it researchers. But when I'm giving this talk to the public, I call it the citizen. Now the way things work in Brussels is what they do is they make policy. Now I want to put policy into context. Industry thinks about maybe maximum 4 years down the road, right? So when they're developing products and so on, civil society, generally, let's be honest, most of us are thinking 1 week down the road. Some people are thinking in days, maybe some of us maximum a year. But in the next 15 years, Europe is going to have some major challenges and major opportunities. So who the hell is thinking about 2030? Now, there's a report in Brussels today called The European Union in 2030, the challenges and opportunities. Now, what the Commission here does, because don't have to be elected, they have the freedom to do foresight analysis. And they have a whole range of these horizon scanning, they call it. Now, they're very sure of a number of things. One thing they're 100% sure as, in the next 15 years, Europe is going to get very old. Aging is going to be a big issue. It's going to be a challenge in costs of healthcare, but it's also going to be an opportunity in all this wonderful talent that's going to be there, and how do we tap into it? So they say, okay, we need to put money into looking at aging society. Other things used to be the environment, but they no longer call it the environment, they call it climate change, and some of you mentioned that. But there's another important thing, it's called resource efficiency. They're not making more land, they're not making more metals, they're not making more water. So we have to be more resource efficient. So resource efficiency is a big, big challenge. Other things, making industry more competitive. More than 50% of European people are living in cities. So transport in urban areas is a big issue. Rural areas are decreasing. So rural areas are a huge challenge. Now, so what they do is they look at these kind of distant things. Now, when we read the newspaper, they're always talking about what happened yesterday. But policy making is about working 10 to 15 years down the road. And what you are doing as a policy analyst is at the debates in Brussels, and the rule of thumb is it takes 5 years to make a decision in Brussels. 28 countries discussing big issues and so on. So my first bit of advice to you is if you want to know what are the debates relevant to your area, you see that website there? Google Europa.eu Aging Society. Google Europa.eu Multiple Sclerosis. Google Europa.eu Animal Welfare. So if you want to know what are the debates that are currently going on, now Sylvia did it for civil society organizations, and we'll see what came up in her search. Now, if they identify that aging society, rural development, animal welfare, circular economy, exactly the things that you talk about, are real challenges. Now, that adjective is very important. Real, not fictitious. They did say, okay, let's put money onto this. Let's give money to the scientists because they can look at the issues that are going to affect us in the next 10 or 15 years. So that's why Horizon 2020 is there. Now, this is called the strategic phase. And what I do is I give courses, but I spend the rest of my time reading policy. 6 days a week is just kind of a thing I've got into. So my brain is in 2021. I'm actually gone beyond 2021 at this stage. So I'm looking at what's going to happen in the next program. In fact, I'm thinking about the second next program at this stage. So that's the business model. I read all this stuff. So when something is announced, I know it 4 years ahead. But that's a full-time job here. And Sylvia, we were walking here this morning, you said there's about lots of people in Brussels, they do that. They just follow the policy debates, don't they?
I used to work in...
Just stand up.
Sorry. My previous job was, I was an information consultant. So the lobbyists and consultancies were paying us to monitor every piece of information. And it's all freely available. You can pick up the phone to someone in the commission, ask them for the latest details. They'll give you what they've recently been meeting about. But there's so much information that people had to employ an entire team in order to monitor everything that was coming out. So yes, every week we'd find out there's a new person in charge of that project, which means that in a few years they'll be in charge of this particular research proposal, and on and on and on. So you're constantly making a list of who could be the next person, so that when that person is elected or when that person is made the rapporteur of a report, you're able to get straight onto them and their assistants and get the next step. So it's constantly monitoring and being ahead of the game.
Now, one thing, we were walking here this morning, I discovered this morning that in Ireland, a lobbyist is a negative word. But you're saying in Brussels it's a positive.
I was a lobbyist, and that's how you introduce yourself. You have a lobbyist badge to enter the institution.
When they go to the parliament, they get a brown badge, isn't it? And they're accepted as part of the process. So the media portray them as this kind of baddie in the process. I asked one MEP, what do you think of these lobbyists? And he said to me, how the hell do you expect us to do our job without getting the opinion of all the stakeholders involved? So I don't want to call it lobbying, because when these people here decide that aging society and Alzheimer's are important issues, the bureaucrats then have to write the programs, and these are the documents that arrive on your table. Now, these people are teachers, farmers, and so on. A lot of these people have PhDs and they're highly skilled people, but they're not experts. You are the experts. So this is where the word lobbying comes into. Now, I don't like the word using lobbying. I prefer to call it participating in the decision-making process. So you're not going to say we're going to have, I love the IFA, the Irish Farmers Association. They have a wonderful term for it. It's called the European Involvement Fund. It's their lobbying organisation in Brussels, but again, so you could say we want to be at the table in the decision-making process. So what I've done here is I've drawn this diagram on the board because most people, all they do is they go on the website and they look at this. But to understand this, you need to understand this and understand this. So if you were going to say, for my organisation, if we want to get involved in European affairs, we're going to monitor all this at the beginning, and then we are gradually going to get involved so that when we're participating in projects, we understand the business. Now, I hope you like that slide. It took 11 years of my life to figure that out. I think it took me about 4 minutes to explain it. So basically, you can buy every book that has ever been written on the European Union, and you will not find that diagram in it. You know, and when people talk about the European Union, they've never seen this diagram. You know, so we'll use that here to understand. Now, what Sylvia has done for you, she did a study of the policies relating to voluntary organisations, who's advising the Commission on the selected ones she selected, and what projects have been funded. So those are the annexes that she has actually included.
Can I ask a quick question here? Because that's very, very interesting. With this lobbying especially, most of us are very small, under-resourced organizations.
Okay.
And of course, you can maybe put the money together, go to Brussels, meet a couple of people, but it will not happen on a regular basis.
That's right.
For this, you need a little bit bigger body, where this, as you said, beautiful idea of the European Involvement Funds is provided. But as a smaller organization, how do you do this lobbying, or how do you access people who do lobbying on your behalf?
Well, I would see it as being involved in a European version of the wheel. To be able to go to a meeting like this, say in Brussels, in the document I've given a list of the European networks and associations. So, for example, you could be involved, you could go to attend a meeting by the European Foundation Centre, European Volunteer Centre. A lot of these places have offices in Brussels, and so if you're a member, then they'll be alerting you to meetings that you can attend. They'll be telling you, right, we'll be attending this meeting, we will be having a representative here, we will be able to speak to this MEP, this commission official, and they would act as your mouthpiece at these meetings. They could be organising an AGM where they'll have a special speaker from any one of the institutions, and you'll be able to hear firsthand what they're working on. So you have to think of it as you're being a small part of a bigger machine. As I said, I worked as a lobbyist, and my very first position as a junior intern was offline gambling. So I was working for the European Gaming Machines Association, the European Bingo Association. They all sound so small. With the AGMs, you would have 200 people from all over Europe, and it's a big enough deal that you would have the exact commission official who's dealing with that topic and the issue of, for example, responsible gambling, and that person will be there. And the bingo people will be saying, look, we want to make sure that when you're talking about responsible gambling, you're talking about it in relation to online people, because offline people, we have a very good policy. And that exact line was put into the policy, that this applies to online but not offline because they are already covered. So even the smallest bingo hall in Ireland was able to say we had input in that policy, into that report.
When I was doing research on renewable energy, if I went to Brussels and say, look, renewable energy as an alternative business for farmers to use their land and still be able to graze it or whatever is a good idea. They say, who's this little guy from Ireland coming with the idea? So what I did is I joined the European Association of Renewable Energies. I got on their board, I wrote a few ideas, and then I went to Brussels with the idea. but I was representing the European Association, same person, same message, as you said, representing the European thing. Now, there's a hidden message in what I said there. European organizations are looking for people with ideas. Now, that's where you come in. This is where the Irish are really excellent. If you have an idea, you don't want to give it to somebody in Brussels who goes to the Parliament. Why don't you deliver the idea? So, real practical things that you have on the ground. So I want to look at some of those kind of mechanisms of how to lobby and so on. Now, that's a different kind of more detailed exercise. We do a whole workshop for big research centers and so on lobbying, and it's exactly what you're saying. There's a mantra in the lobbying world. It's called decisions are made by those who turn up. So if you think in the bingo hall, you didn't have somebody calling out bingo numbers there, but by getting their message together, now that idea could come from a bingo hall in West Cork or whatever, but it found its way through the system. Now that's another day's work. I think maybe Deirdre and Emma, that's another workshop we could look at, is how to do it, and we could do examples here.